Good day and welcome to episode number 27 of Lanark County Confidential. I'm your host, Mike Lynch-Staunton. Lanark County Confidential is brought to you on WRVO Radio Network, Division of Reno Vial Outdoors. You can hear us on, you can go to Reno Vial Outdoors and click on the link, or you can get TuneIn Radio or Shoutcast Radio we're being broadcast on. So. Also, I think iTunes as well. So, or you can get some of the podcasts on iTunes. So, anyways, today's show is sponsored by, or is brought to you by, or is being sponsored by ml-scustomtackle, 1558 Richmond Road. If you're looking to get a custom rod made, if you're looking for rod and reel repairs, or you want to buy some gambler lures, come and see me. Give me a call. Send me an email. One of the three. Anyways, today I have on the line, or I'm going to get on the line quite quickly here, Gambler Lures rep Joe Holland, and we're going to talk to him about fishing, what it's like, and
thank you, distributor.
All the rest of that. So just give me a sec here, and
Thank you for calling Global Anglers. We are either on.
We'll see what happens.
Good morning.
There we go. We got you back again, eh, Joe?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, great. Let's try this one more time. I had him on the phone here earlier and something happened, so I guess it was a practice run, so we'll make it a practice run.
No problem.
Sooner or later I'll get this all polished and everything like that, and it'll sound really, really like a big production company, but for now, this is all you get, fumbling Mike. So, anyways, I've known Joe for just a year now, and we have some pretty good conversations on the phone. And being that I got a lot of listeners that are like myself, that are doing tournaments and trying to get into this industry and wanting to, live the dream, as they say. I figured you're my best example of to give my listeners, some points and tips and stuff, and how basically to go about living the dream type thing. So, you've been, in our other conversations I got from it that you've been fishing for a long time. Just go back through that, how you started off with your dad in Maine and stuff like that. So.
Alrighty, well, starting out, my dad used to fish actually in New Jersey when I was really young. That's where he was from, and he got into the bass clubs back in the mid-'70s when it was kind of new, I guess, the whole bass and bass tournament fishing, and he did really well in it. I got a couple pictures of him holding up, 4 or 5 out of the 6 trophies in the club, and it was cool. He did really well, and he kind of got bit by the bug, the whole tournament bass fishing bug. And then he moved us up to Maine when I was really young, and we just fished. We fished every chance we could get. As soon as I got out of school, when I got older, or every weekend, and playing sports. But the fishing was awesome. And he and I had fished some tournaments together. It was one of those things where you take a kid fishing, you take your kid fishing, you take his kid's friends fishing, and it wasn't until later years when I started taking kids fishing that I realized how much of a pain in the neck I was. Wanting to retie, and I don't like
getting
this
stuck
lure,
all the time.
Into it. Oh yeah, man. I mean, until I took my little brother out when he was like 2. Is when I first realized it, and I thanked my old man. The first thing I did was I thanked him, and I was like, man, I really appreciate putting up with me if I was even half as bad as that. But it was all part of the experience, and even bringing my little brother was a great part of it. But no, so he got me into it. And it started out a family thing, and we were fishing. I grew up with his boat was a 12-foot aluminum with a 5-horse game fisher on it, and it was awesome. The lake that we loved, our favorite lake, was about 5 or 6 miles long, and of course the fishing's always at the furthest end away from the launch. So we'd had a half-hour run to the other end, going whatever speed, trolling motor speed nowadays. But no, so fishing with him, I really learned how to pick spots apart, because we couldn't jump around. we didn't have that ability to just pick up and hit this spot, see, when it's good. We would go learn spots and really work them and be thorough on them and pick them apart and really learn how much a spot would hold. So I learned a lot from him that way, of course. And then as I got older, I got my own boat. I remember my first boat was a 16-foot aluminum with a 35 horsepower on it, man. And
wow,
I bought it
you're
from
flying now, eh?
Oh, it was like, dude, you couldn't even imagine how happy I was, and I'm sitting on the top of this mountain, looking around because I could go 27.1 miles an hour. Now I'm jumping all around, and I know the old man's still out there in his boat shaking his head. There's this young whippersnapper thinks he's king, you-know-what, jumping around. So, but no, that boat, now, the previous owner, I guess, had it stored, or he left it in salt water, so like all the rivets that were aluminum had that electrolysis or whatever where the inside of them would just break. So I had this boat, man, and I changed out just about every rivet in the thing by the end of it. There's got to be like 2,610 rivets or something in this boat, and I would change them out every time. Finally, I got smart enough to start changing them out with like a little a bolt, a nut and bolt instead, because the new rivets would break sometimes. I'd be out there fishing, you'd hear it. But I turned that boat into my own little bass boat. I decked it over. I plumbed a live well in there, bilge pumps, even put a pedestal seat up front, trolling motor up front. And I just fished tournaments. I really got into it. I've always been competitive, grew up playing sports, and just love fishing. I love competing against the fish, against the elements, the weather, the other fishermen, and your own personal goals. And that boat, geez, I must have had that for several years. I can't even imagine. I had that boat probably for 15 years.
Yeah. And
then I got another boat that was even better. I got a 75 horsepower Evinrude, put it on like an 18.5-foot Grizzly tracker, and used an aluminum frame and built this deck. The whole thing was a deck. It's the biggest deck I've ever fished off of. And I had that about a year until I took it to Champlain, and I got into like 6-footers.
Wow.
And I'm lucky I ever got that boat even off the water. By the end of it, I had broken every weld on that boat. And, because once one goes, it puts more stress on the next one type of deal.
Yeah.
And that was actually in a bass divisional for BASS.
Oh, really?
Coming up through the Federation. Yeah, so I had to pull out as a boater, which is probably a good thing for whoever would have drawn me as a co-angler. And then I ended up fishing it as a non-boater. But as far as like my sponsorship goes, I had fished in Maine for close to 20 years out of these boats that I had all I could do each tournament just to keep them floating. I'd never fished in my life with dry feet, or a dry bottom in my boat. It didn't even matter what time of year because rivets were going or they were cracked. And I just loved it. I put my head down and just fished my hardest. I didn't care if guys were running around 250s or faster boats or stuff like that. And I'd done well. And my sponsor's Mark Osgood, and April Osgood's his wife, and he owns Freedom Express USA. And I fished against him for all those 20 years. He's a great fisherman, always right up there at the top. And I'd done well enough, I guess, out of those aluminum boats that I could just about keep floated, that I guess I really caught his eyes, is kind of how that went. And he and I had some battles, and, I don't really have many responsibilities in my life. And he was after me, because it was always one of his dreams to do that, and he got a little bit of a shot at it, I guess, and then he had a family, so he stuck to his responsibilities, and it's been his dream, and he always was after me. He's like, Joe, you got to get a boat, man. You got to get a faster boat. You got to give this a shot when you get it. You got the chance now before you get tied down or before you can't. You got to give this thing a shot and see where it'll take you. Yeah. And I'd always say, hey, Mark, I can't afford any more than I have. I wasn't asking for anything. It's just the truth of the matter. And, he started taking it really seriously. He used to sell some Bass Cats and Tritons, and he called Bass Cat and said, you got to do something for this kid. He saw a lot in me, I guess. You'd have to get the whole story from him, and they said, look, we can't. It's just the economy's bad. And he said, well, screw you, I'll do it myself. And
really?
He called me up, and it was like one of the best days of my life, and it happened. He brought it over. He brought a Jaguar, Basket Jag over with a 250 on it, and said,
wow.
He threw me the keys and said, "Go as hard as you can." He put me on the road, and of course paid the entry fees for those Ever Starts last year, and
wow.
and there I am. So it's the greatest sponsorship I could ever ask for. I get a lot of help from them, both mentally, and then of course fishing wise too, and I'm incredibly fortunate. It's been my dream to do this. I grew up reading the Bassmasters, and of course loved Jimmy Houston, Roland Martin, and Grigsby, and Elias, and all those guys who I got to meet most of them last year, which is just you're awestruck, and fish against some of them too. Rick Clunn, and so it's always been a dream of mine, and I thought I could do it possibly going through the Federation, like Paul and Nick and a bunch of guys, Ike and them, and Mark, he thinks I can do it that way too, but he just said he'd put me on the fast track and give me a shot this way. So,
well, that's pretty cool.
I'm incredibly fortunate and blessed, and can't even tell you how lucky I am, and definitely living the dream. The dream, everybody says, the dream's making it big, but to me, it's really just being here and doing it. Sometimes, because it's so fast, and it's so fast that you have to take time to stop and realize what's going on around you when you're traveling like that and fishing all these tournaments in new places. But you just got to stop and realize this is the dream, man. I'm out there doing it, and I love that part of it. Of course, you always want to do better, but of course, it is awesome being here.
Sounds like it takes a lot of perseverance and sacrificing a lot, just you know what I mean, to get to where you want to go. So,
it definitely is. I mean, I got a lot of friends. As soon as I got the sponsorship, a lot of stuff in my life changed as far as I don't know how long it's going to be, and all I know is I have it right now, so every bit of my resources and every bit of my time and all of my focus is going towards that. Because,
take advantage of the opportunity while you can.
Exactly. If there's a day when it's all done and I didn't reach goals or I didn't get as far as I want to be, at least I'll be able to look back and say, hey, I gave it my best and I have no regrets. And that's the only way to really go at it for me.
Well, so many people just sit at the sidelines and say, geez, I wish I could play the game, or I can play the game, but I can't do this or I can't do that or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like it's those that can do, obviously, and those that can't don't do it. So, but and it's the sponsorship thing that I want to pick on or just allude to right now is, and to me, it sounds like you've got a very great sponsor there. How do you maintain that relationship with him, or what's his expectations, and how do you maintain those expectations of your sponsor?
Well, this one's a little bit unique because there's not a whole heck of a lot I could do to help promote them. Okay. As far as there's a commercial trucking outfit out of New England, so it's not like it's a product where it's a fishing lure or a fishing rod, or I could get out there and try to increase sales that way. So kind of the way I look at it, and through the talks that we've had, it's really about going out there and just representing the company.
Get
and
the
my
exposure
state.
For the company then.
Exactly, and just doing the absolute best I can is what it's all about as far as that goes. And not letting anybody down, and that's kind of how I've always lived as far as that goes. So that's kind of how that sponsorship goes. I mean, it's definitely unique, Mike. Whereas it's not like a lot of sponsorships, and it's incredible. Is really what it is for me. And if there's anything I can do on my side, of course I'll do it. But it's not as demanding, I know, as some other guys have sponsorships, and it's incredibly lucky. I'm incredibly lucky, and I get to really focus on my fishing when I'm not, working or doing the various other things that aren't fishing that you have to do in life.
I guess that's kind of, that would actually lend itself pretty easy though too. If you didn't have a fishing related sponsor, then you don't have to go all do the seminars and worry about selling, tackle and stuff like that. So, in itself, it sort of lends itself to take a bit of the pressure off. So, but
it definitely it definitely takes the pressure off that way, and we're great friends. It's funny, we had we'd fished against each other for like 20 years. Of course, we had some battles on the water, and Maine fishing is just highly competitive. Guys keep the same partners for 20 to 30 years on the partner tournaments, and stuff isn't shared, and it's competitive. These guys will help each other out right to a T. If you ever needed anything, they take the shirt off their back and give it to you. But as far as the fishing goes, it is cutthroat, competitive, and I mean, good. It's still good-natured. But Mark and I, we'd had a couple battles. I'd beat him to a spot one time with my 35 horse, and he had a 250 that might have even been souped up. I don't know. I've always kind of thought that thing was souped up because it was about 10 miles an hour faster than any other 250. But somehow I had beat him to a spot, and we got into a little argument over it. I didn't know he'd won. He had won like 10 or 11 tournaments in a row off that spot. And of course, here I am, some Huckleberry kid in a painted-up aluminum boat with a deck on it that somehow got on that spot before him. And we got into a little argument about it, and after that, it just we just went hard at each other fishing, of course, and definitely with respect. And I don't know if that might have turned his eye towards me, or just how I did, or he really we got on board together. And of course, I couldn't do any of this without him. I mean, I would definitely be still trying to work my way up through the ranks, through the Federation or the TBF, through the grassroots, which I'm still doing, which I love to do. But he definitely put me on a fast track, allowing me to fish the Opens and the Everstarts and the BFLs and whatever else I can fish.
Let's talk a bit about your association with Gambler now.
Sure.
How long?
Yep.
You started with them this year, or you've been using their products for a long time, or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've been with Gambler Lures now for about a year. I'd fished against the owner, Val, on Okeechobee when I was down here for a couple winters, and he and I just kind of hit it off, and there's been like a little bit of a void with Gambler in the Northeast and some other territories that I know really well, and guys are using the stuff. It definitely works, but a lot of the dealers just didn't cue in on it, and
a lot of dealers just don't push it hard enough, I find.
Yeah, that's definitely the key, and you also got your fishermen who know it works and do really well with it, but they keep it a secret.
They don't tell exactly. That's like me. They don't tell anybody. Like Ninja Jigs. I try not to tell anybody about Ninja Jigs, but you know what? I got to sell it, so what the hell? Why not?
I know, that's the key, man. And I used to be a fur trapper, and it was the same deal. Breaking into that world was tough because it was closed mouth, because it's competitive, and the fishing's the same way. It's very competitive. So a guy isn't really going to tell you what's really working the best, especially if it's off the grid or it comes from a smaller company or niche or cult, with a cult following. So they brought me in here at Gambler for sales and doing some social media stuff, of course, with some videos and some promotion and stuff like that. And it seems to be really working well, and I love it. I love it, definitely. It allows me to fish as well. Everything right now for me is all about fishing and going as hard as I can and seeing where it'll take me, whether it's through the Everstarts or the Opens or the BFLs or the weekend series or whatever I'm fishing. But everything else around that is pointing towards that, and taking a job here at Gambler and working with Gambler is all about getting towards that end goal, and it allows me to do it. So.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left here, so I just want to run through. You came up with the Easy Desert hook, or that combination of putting the blade on the hook?
Yep, exactly. I was on Okeechobee one day, and there was a pile of fish around me, and I was in this huge grass area, and it was windy, and they were having a hard time finding the Big Easy, but they were eating swim baits, but it was just, you had to get it within like a 1 to 2 foot range of them, or you wouldn't get a bite.
Okay.
And it was perfect for a spinnerbait. It was a little bit of murk in the water, and it was choppy, and but it was too much grass. You couldn't throw a spinnerbait. You'd get hung up, 2 casts in. So I was thinking, man, I got to get something, to combine these two would be killer. Where it's still weedless, but you're getting that vibration, you're getting that flash, you're getting that bulk and the size and what they're eating and the color. and I just started working on it and put something together, and I started throwing it, and I think second cast I caught a giant, and I just wore him out in this area that I was fishing for an hour, and picking off one or two here, and I went to Val with it, and he jumped on it. He's fearless as far as that stuff goes, and he said, "Hey, that's a great idea, and it works." And we tweaked it a little way here and there, and it really works well. It's been quite a success for us here.
Well, it definitely works. I think the Big Easy on that on the Easy Does It hook is it's, to me, I no longer throw a frog. I just throw the Big Easy, and I throw when I don't get them any other way, or when I got some open water, I'll throw the Easy Does It hook with the blade on it, and like you said, it's just that extra flash to it. So. It's that, to me, that's how many other people come up with that type thing. So and now they put it on the swim jigs as well too, so it's even, and I love the swim jigs. I just discovered them this year. So but
they're awesome, man. And we got a new one coming out here at Gambler. We got a heavy cover Pro Series swim jig.
Okay.
The regular swim jig's phenomenal. That's my favorite. The standby. Then of course you throw the Does It rig on that, and you got the swim jig flash, and it just adds to it. It
just adds to your arsenal of stuff to throw. And like you say, you couldn't throw the spinner bait that day because there's too much weeds and stuff. So this, to me, is the happy medium between the two of them. It makes way more sense. I don't know why somebody didn't come up with it before, but I guess it just...
And it was one of those things, Mike, where it's just like you just said. It's one of those things where the light bulb went off, and I said, "Oh my God, how is this not out there? How is there nothing like this?" Because everybody knows what a spinnerbait can do. How many dollars did Jimmy Houston win on it, or Hank Parker? How many? It's one of those baits you kind of get away from a little bit, but then it's not always practical when you're in the thick grass
thick
or
grass,
in certain
exactly.
situations.
So
we all know what swim bait's been doing.
Now, how did the burner worm, to me, is I'm really interested in that. One of the reasons is because of the tail. That came from the flapping shads, right?
Yep, it did. That's where the idea for that came from. What we were looking for here with that lure is a little bit more bulk than the flapping shad. The flapping shad's a staple. It's been here, and it catches fish. It always will. But we were looking for a little bit more bulk and a little bit more chop.
Okay.
Especially down here in Florida, on Okeechobee, Kissimmee, a lot of grass lakes like that where you can't throw a buzzbait, and it fills a little void for that. And a lot of guys are swimming it underwater. It's got incredible swimming action underwater too. So.
Well, that's what I thought of is just swimming it underwater. It may, like you say, I've been using the flapping shads and cutting the tails and making them like it's a buzzbait type thing, and those work real well. When I saw this, I just went. Put it on a jig head and swim it through the weeds and stuff like that. And it's who came up with this one?
This one was a little bit of a collaboration inside the company. There was, of course, Val, myself, and a couple other guys around. A lot of local guys were like, "Yeah, you gotta do something. You gotta tweak it this way. You got to tweak it that way." Of course, we got the 5-inch paddle tail, and then we got the 6-inch flapping shad. And a lot of guys didn't know about cutting the tail on the flapping shad, like you said. That's another one of those little secrets that not everybody shares, but it definitely works. But we were kind of looking for some more bulk, but a little bit less bulk than like the Big Easy or a swim bait style. So it had to be a worm. Of course, we've always been strong with paddle tails, and everybody knows. A lot of people know about cutting the tail, so we just went straight in with a cut and put it the way where the bait's going to have the most action. So
and not only that.
So that.
Machining it actually makes it better, because I found that when you cut it, you know what I mean? Like it's you got to make the perfect cut.
Exactly. These are already made with a cut. And the cool thing about them, I mean, there's some other worms similar to it on the market from other companies, but the cool thing about this one is that it's laminated. So you got your top and you got your bottom colors.
Okay.
So you look at it in like Icebreaker, or you look at it in Copperfield or any other colors like that, and you're going to see that it's got tops and bottoms, new shad, and it really looks good as far as that goes too. So if you got something following it and you stop it and they take a good look at it, they're gonna commit and feast on it.
Well, it just adds to Gambler's lineup. Like I don't really have to go buy plastics from any other company, because when I look at their lineup, they've got big worms. They've got bigger worms than anybody does. Like 15-inch worm, 16-inch worm. Yeah, like who sells 16-inch worms out there? I
don't know, man, but I'll tell you what, that 16 when that bites right it's addictive. You don't go to work when that bites on.
Well, I'm selling them.
That thing. I throw some guys will throw it with a weight in front of it, but I throw it on just a 6 or 7/0 hook.
Okay.
And one of the best guys I know fishing it just throws it on a 5/0 hook, and you get out there and it looks just like a snake swimming. And those fish, they'll eat it right off your trolling motor. They get so keyed on it that you could even have your trolling motor running and they will eat it 3 feet away. And it's the most amazing bites you'll ever see, and you can put some serious weight in the boat.
Well, I got guys buying it for muskies because it's such a big worm.
Definitely.
They just said they wanted and they're throwing on a big jig for muskies. So, but anyways, it's getting here. I got to get to the end of my show here. I really, really enjoyed this, Joe. I'm going to get you on again, obviously, because we could probably do about 3 or 4 of these. So,
definitely. I really enjoyed it too. I appreciate it big time, Mike. Definitely.
I got to let you go here because I got to sign off in another couple of minutes. So thank you very, very much. Give Val a big pat in the back for me for having just an outstanding company. And I'm going to come down and see you guys in February. So
sounds good, Mike. We're looking forward to it, and I appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Okay. You have a good day, Joe.
You too. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Well, there we go. That was Joe Holland from Gambler Lures. Hope that gives you guys just a little indication of what it takes to live the dream. Really, it's just one of those things that pretty much anybody can do it if they really try. It's something that, well, maybe not as much up here in Canada as there is in the States because we don't have the industry for it, but hopefully that helps you guys if you're thinking of looking for sponsors and what expectations they have. Obviously, Joe's got a bit of a different major sponsor than some of the guys out there. But it all comes down to being personable and representing the company in the aspect that they want. So, anyways, I really enjoyed today's show. I hope you guys did too. Remember, it was brought to you by ml-scustomtackle. If you need any rods and reels repaired, you need a custom rod made, you want to come and talk to me about fishing, you just want to hang out for a while, give me a buzz. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate having you, and we'll see you next week.